Lately, I've been seeing a lot of disappointment in the gaming industry. Videos about how gamers have put down the controllers because gaming isn't fun anymore, or that gaming is dead. But is that really true? I started thinking about this, and sure, I can see where they're coming from. Right now, there's a lot of negative discourse happening in the industry. Game prices are way too high. Corporate greed is running the show. Microtransactions are everywhere. AI this, wokeness that. What exactly is a game keycard? I have to admit, it's a lot, and can even be stressful when you think about it, especially for something that we've loved since we were kids. So I took a step back and looked at the games I played in 2025 to find an answer to the question for myself. Is gaming really dead? During my reflection, a common pattern I saw was getting out of my comfort zone and trying to play new genres. By making an honest attempt with these games I had never played before, and being receptive of what they're trying to give me, I was able to expand my horizons and experience stories that have since had a lasting impact on me. Games I would never have given a chance otherwise. What I discovered was that I don't believe that gaming is dead. I believe gaming only dies if you limit yourself to only what you know, or what you're comfortable with. I learned that gaming is very much alive, and that I've only scratched the surface. Most of my gaming life growing up was spent playing turn-based RPGs like Pokemon and Final Fantasy, with a bit of action here and there like the original God of War games. But my first brush with shooting mechanics, as far as I can remember, was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart back in 2021. I was terrible at it. I am really bad at aiming. I think it's because I tend to panic the moment I see an enemy, and by the time the reticle lands on where I'm supposed to shoot, I'm already looking at a game over screen. Fortunately, it was very forgiving as far as shooting mechanics go, and I was able to beat it and eventually get the platinum. Then I dabbled a little in Warframe. Now, this was a lot less forgiving and really emphasized my lack of coordination. So I only did a bit of shooting and went through the beginning of the game mostly melee. And since I wasn't engaging with it the way it wanted me to, I stopped having fun pretty quickly and ended up dropping it. I pretty much stayed away from games with shooting mechanics after that until 2024, when I played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake, which I enjoyed for the most part. But again, I wasn't meeting these games halfway, and I was only shooting when it was necessary. I mostly dodged, parried if I got lucky, and ran away. At the end of 2024, when I finished Stellar Blade, I started getting a little burnt out from Souls-likes, and not really knowing what to play next, I decided to bite the bullet and try my first FPS game, Far Cry 5. I absolutely loved this game, way more than I thought I would. I will admit though that I almost put the game down right in the beginning during the car chase. It was so unbelievably hard for me because I didn't know 1. How to aim, and 2. When the proper time to lean out was, or if I should even lean out at all. I was probably stuck for over an hour trying to figure out what to do. But when I miraculously survived the sequence, and I was able to explore Dutchess Island to learn the mechanics, the gameplay suddenly clicked for me. I was having so much fun. Finding new weapons to play with, figuring out the best time and ways to use them. I was like a kid in a playground. I had the whole world in my hands. I was still intimidated by facing enemies head-on with pistols though, so as soon as I got the sniper rifle, it became my go-to weapon for liberating outposts. And it taught me a lot about the importance of scouting, and prioritizing specific enemies instead of going in guns blazing, which made the experience a lot more engaging and, most importantly, enjoyable. After rolling credits on Far Cry 5, I was hungry for more, so I immediately wanted to play other titles in the series, and I ended up playing Far Cry New Dawn, 4, and 6 almost back to back. I didn't get tired of the gameplay loop itself, but after Far Cry 6, I tried Primal and finally hit burnout. The game itself was quite interesting and different from the rest, but I'd had my fill by then, I think. I could tell I needed a change of pace, so I decided to put it down in the meantime. I was still craving shooting mechanics though, so I played The Last of Us Part 1 for the first time. And I was not prepared for the emotional roller coaster that I was about to experience.
No. Please don't. Please.
It was a perfectly crafted story about the complexity of what makes us human, what we're willing to do and sacrifice to survive, how we have to live with the choices that we make, and live with knowing what we sacrificed when we made those choices. Amazing story aside, what also impressed me was how simple and nuanced the gameplay was. It was able to integrate the gameplay into the narrative that made everything feel grounded, and it only pulled me deeper into the story. The stealth that I learned from liberating outposts in Far Cry came in handy when hiding from clickers. I had to pivot from having more ammo than I could ever need to trying to make every shot count because I didn't have enough bullets going into the encounter. This learning and unlearning of mechanics became a dance almost when I would start a new game, like switching between weapons on a weapon wheel. After that, I played Resident Evil 4 Remake and had a lot more fun than I did in RE2 and 3 because I met the game where it wanted me to. I locked in and learned how to panic less when there were multiple enemies coming my way. And soon enough, I found myself prioritizing headshots for the thrill of seeing Leon roundhouse kick a zombie in the face. Acceptance versus resistance. I was beginning to understand. The more I resisted, the less fun I was having. This would extend into The Last of Us Part 2, which was one of the most emotionally impactful games I'd ever played, and something that has stuck with me ever since.
Good night, kiddo.
I remember just staring at the TV when the credits started to roll, not really knowing how to process everything I was feeling at that moment. All of these concepts I'd never really considered before just floating in my head. How grief becomes a blindfold when love doesn't know where to go. How we fight over the corpses of loved ones, not knowing we're only adding to the pile. I remember yelling at the screen during the final chapter to just leave it alone. It's not worth it. I was so emotionally exhausted by the end that I didn't even want to do the last fight, because there was no reason to fight anymore. It was one of the best experiences I'd ever had in a video game, and it made me realize something. What else was I missing out on? I didn't have to wait long for an answer, because I started another game in a genre that, up until that point, I had no interest in at all, even avoided like the plague. I played Returnal. My only prior experience with roguelite or roguelite adjacent games were Children of Morta back in 2021, and more recently Elden Ring Night Rain. Neither of which worked for me because they were butting heads with my gaming philosophy when I played them. Up to that point, I preferred games with a traditional linear progression, and playing at my own pace without a timer looming over me. Returnal, though, was different. At first, I felt blindsided because it wasn't until after my first death that I realized this was a roguelite, and the resources and upgrades I'd painstakingly collected completely vanished, and I was back to square one. Needless to say, it was a brutal first few hours trying to learn the mechanics, and trying to detach myself from feeling like I wasted my time whenever I lost a run. I kept running away from enemies and never paid enough attention to their moveset because I was always in flight mode. Just when I was about to put it down for good and file it away under games that did not work, I collected myself and really thought about why the way I was playing wasn't working. I was trying to get through each area way too quickly, and in the process, I was trading hits more than I needed to. I was exhausting all of the Sylphium in an area right from the start. I also had the tendency to stand in one spot while trying to aim at an enemy, which left me all too exposed to the ones in my periphery. And then I thought, okay, for this next run, let me take my time. Let me figure out how each enemy moves. Learn the pattern of their projectiles. Explore every nook and cranny of each area before moving to the next one. And most importantly, keep moving. And it worked. Pretty soon, I was getting through areas without taking any damage. I discovered that when I have full health, every Sylphium in the area becomes a resin. I learned to collect as many obolites as possible, even risking malfunctions for obolite chunks. I learned which artifacts, upgrades, or items are worth the obolites. I learned not to get attached to any single run. Best of all though, I learned how to have fun, and I started getting excited about each new attempt. How can I do better this time? Which weapons will I find? What kind of boss fight will I experience? And then I finished the game and instantly wanted to jump back in. But I finally had the door wide open, and I couldn't stay in this room and wait for the door to close again. So I started another roguelite, Hades. Which brings us to the present. Hades had the growing pains I had when I started Returnal, getting used to the combat, learning what the boons do and how they interact with each other, what's worth buying with obols. But the entrance fee was much less steep this time, and I was able to get to that point of enjoyment much sooner than I did with Returnal. And I think that's a big part of the overarching theme with all the games I played in 2025. That by trying out a different game and actually engaging in it the way it wants me to, I don't have a lot to lose, but everything to gain. The worst I can lose is the time I spent playing. But even if I didn't end up liking the game, I was still able to learn something new that I can take with me. A small map fragment to point me in the right direction on my next adventure. By getting out of my comfort zone, I became more receptive of new experiences and actually be excited about learning the mechanics of each new game. With Far Cry 5, I learned how to face my fears and get better at aiming. With The Last of Us, I learned that there are still games that can have a profound effect on me. Stories that will stay with me and possibly shape my own perceptions as I go through life. With Returnal, I learned I shouldn't let my past mistakes prevent me from doing better in my future attempts, because making progress towards a goal, no matter how small, is infinitely more fulfilling than stopping before I even began to try. Most of all, I learned that there is so much more to gaming than I had initially thought. That going into 2026, I am more excited than ever to discover new experiences and to keep exploring the seemingly unending bounty that gaming still has to offer.